Hey, this is Mike with Family Handyman, and today we're going to be bringing back a project from the past. Back in March of 1956, Family Handyman published an article on how to build a 2-in-1 table. It was a coffee table whose legs flipped up and converted to a dining room table. We're going to be using that same concept to build our own 2-in-1 table. In the original article, the legs were made out of 1x material, and they were made with a miter joint, and they were tapered. We're going to be using the same tapered leg design, but we're going to be using nice walnut, and we're going to be building up a half-lap joint to make it really nice and strong. The other thing we're doing is, instead of using an old hollow core door like they used in 1956, we're going to be using hardwood walnut and edge banding it, and it's going to look really awesome. Let's get started. I'm building this table to be 28 inches wide and 66 inches long. I wanted the top to be a little bit thicker, so I glued and pin nailed 3-inch wide strips around the edges, and that also stiffens up the top. I added a strip in the middle and 2 more 6-inch wide strips where the legs will eventually be attached. I chose walnut for this project mainly for the look, but it's also a lot harder and tougher than the pine that was used in the original article. To hide the plywood edges, we needed to use edge banding. I decided to add a little bit more interest and cut a bevel in this edge banding, but if you don't want to do this, a square edge banding will look great and it'll avoid some of the headache of this tricky cut. Glue and pin the edge banding on and then trim up the ends. To get the cool tapered legs on this table, you've got to make a jig. I started with a 12-inch by 30-inch piece of plywood and cut 2 slots across it a few inches from the bottom and the top. You can make these slots without a router by drilling a hole at each end and cutting them out with a jigsaw. For the fence, you'll need to cut 2 more slots. These slots should run along the fence and match up with those on the sled. Then screw on a heel to the end of the fence. Then add a few knobs and clamps, adjust the fence, and make your cuts. The original article called for a miter joint, but I decided to use a half-lap joint instead. These legs are going to be swung in and out, and a half-lap joint is just going to be a little bit tougher. I built up the half-lap joint by layering the parts of the legs together. Cut a bevel on the stretchers that matches the angle of the legs, then connect the legs with the stretchers using a few trim head screws. Piano hinges are what makes these legs swing. Place the finished legs on the bottom sides of the table and attach them with the piano hinges. Make sure they are offset so they close all the way. Then fill any holes, sand it smooth, and apply finish, and you're done. So there you have it, a project from the past brought back and updated for today. Now the original idea was great, and I didn't want to change that too much, but I did upgrade the material and made it a little bit more interesting with some trickier cuts. But overall, it was pretty easy. You can do that same thing with any of our project plans. Use them as inspiration and customize them for you. Check out those project plans at familyhandyman.com.